I'm back.
Every time I walk out that door, every time I interact with anybody new, my purpose is to help change.
It's time to celebrate life. If you know that you're in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know you want better for your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you have what it takes to be in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you are not just trying to be good for you, but for those around you, it's time to stand up. As a matter of fact, look to the person to your left and tell them you are enough.
I want to help you change, and just like you change, every time I interact with somebody, they help me change. It's no different than if I met an individual and they had 4 quarters and they needed change, or if I had $1 and they had 4 quarters, I need to change. We can swap the money. The value is still the same. They still got $1, I still got $1, but we both exchanged something, and it was a change for both of us. So every time I walk out that door, I inspire to help change lives just as much as lives have changed me.
Y'all been listening to the wrong people, watching the wrong things all your life, and it's time to put to rest all those negative thoughts, because you are enough. It's time to put to rest that self-doubt, because you are enough. It is time to get rid of that negative energy, because you are enough. It is time to stop listening to people that don't have the best interests of you in your life, because you are enough. So let's have a moment of silence. I want everybody to understand that you are the person that's in charge of your life. Everything that you have inside of you to be who you're supposed to be in life. You have a destiny, and that destiny can only be accomplished through you, by you, and only you, with the help of God. When you realize that you are the person you are, because you're not a carbon copy, there's only one you. They try to put you in a box. Society tries to put you in a box, but you can't be in a box. How can you be in a box when there's only one you? But then they tell you, think outside the box. What I'm trying to get you to understand is there is no box.
I want to pass on the things that I have to the generations behind me. By the time it's time for me to get called home and go to the grave, I want to be empty. I believe in bankrupting the cemetery, so I can't take this knowledge with me, because the cemetery is already full of brilliant ideas and unwritten books and innovative ideas. I can't take this with me, so I'm trying to leave it all here as Billy Graham Jr. to the next generation so somebody else can carry it on.
What's up? What's up? What's up? We are back. And man, I couldn't wait to get back, because you know how we do on this show. We bring different personalities, different business owners, just people from all walks of life. So you can see how they're doing what they love to do by living in their purpose. They're driven by their purpose. And man, when I say the young man that I have today, man, I just was talking to him a little bit before the show, and I'm just sitting there. It was like, have you ever had that moment where you felt like you were talking to yourself? This gentleman, not only is he a veteran, not only does he have a lovely family that he supports, not only does he have a regular 9-to-5 job that we hear people talk about all the time, he also has a purpose and is fueled by helping others. Now, I'm not going to get into all the details. I want you to hear it from this person, from their mouth, because you wouldn't believe me if I told you all the secrets and stuff that I heard from this young man. So I got to introduce you. I won't hold you up anymore. I have to introduce you to the one, the only Christian Spears.
Man, hey, Billy, how you doing? Really appreciate the introduction. I feel special.
Man, I feel special just from you being here, man. When I was sitting, I'm telling you, when I was talking to you, I had that, my brain just started firing. Like it was just lighting up, because I was like, wait till everybody gets to meet this young man. But before we get into that, can you tell us all, who is Christian Spears?
Yes, so Christian Spears is a native of Dallas, Texas. Was born and raised there. Grew up with a beautiful family, my parents and siblings. Christian Spears is also a veteran, as you said. So I served in the United States Air Force, proudly served, worked with some phenomenal men and women in the armed forces. I'll get into the good things at the latter end of it, but spent some time overseas, had some time coaching, doing a lot of different developmental activities in the Air Force and beyond. And to date, I am an account manager. So I do business development and sales with a large company in the HVAC industry. My true passion lies behind what we'll talk about a little bit, which is coaching, professional coaching. So I'm really passionate about supporting others in the development of their potential in their personal lives and in their professional lives. And most importantly, Christian Spears is a man of God who also happens to be a husband and a father. And so that's a little bit about me.
Man, I don't even know how you find time to do all the stuff you just named. But we gotta ask these questions. So what was that start? Let's go back to the beginning, because you said you were raised in Texas. You know me, I'm the same way, raised in Texas, Texas raised.
Yeah, there you go.
So how was that upbringing that throughout life that transitions to that first part? Because you said you're a military veteran. What was life coming up for you in Texas that led to you going to the military?
Yeah, most definitely. So, in a lot of ways, some people may go into the military and it's a bit of a culture shock for them. But I will say I really didn't have much of a culture shock because I was raised to say yes, sir, yes, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am. Grew up in a disciplined household, but a loving household. Character was a principle that was driven by my parents. Respect and dignity for others were principles that were driven by my parents. And so when the opportunity presented itself for me to join the United States Air Force by way of the Air Force Academy, because that was my commissioning source, it was more natural than you might think it was. I also had a background in sports, and so I got to continue my playing journey in the sport of football at the Air Force Academy. And so in some ways it was somewhat seamless, but in other ways it had its challenges and its perplexities as well. That's just a little bit about that navigation from my upbringing to how I got into the armed forces.
Now you said Air Force Academy, because we got people that listen from all over the world. How does that work? Because when I went, it was just like you showed up and it was like Air Force Academy, enlisted. Somebody that's trying to go the route of Air Force Academy, how do they go that route?
Yeah, I would say you can never start too early if you're desirous to go the service academy route. The service academies being the Air Force Academy, Annapolis, which is the Naval Academy, and then West Point, which is the United States Military Academy for the Army. Very, very prestigious schools, obviously, but also just not the easiest schools to get into, I would say. And so preparation, like I said, you can never start too early as far as getting your grades in the right place that they need to be. But I would also encourage people to focus on being a well-rounded individual. A lot of people say, I'm just an athlete, so I'm gonna get in on an athletic scholarship, or I'm a a brainiac, so I'm gonna make sure I got straight A's and get into it that way. But at least with my experience at the Air Force Academy, it was they were looking for those well-rounded individuals, those people who had character and leadership potential that they could further develop and expound upon once being at the academy. And so that was how my experience was.
So you brought up a good point, and we see it happen so much today. Because I was one of those individuals. Yes, I had my parents push the grades. I was good in sports. How do you help? What kind of advice would you give somebody? Because you say well-rounded.
Yeah.
Can you go into a little bit of detail? Because everybody doesn't have or is unfortunate enough to have the same upbringing. So depending on their community, where they're from, what are those ways that a person can build those characteristics you're talking about so that they can become a well-rounded individual? Because believe it or not, in life today, you need to try to strive to be well-rounded in any way. So how would you go about telling somebody to fix that or figure out how to help them with that?
Yeah, one thing is, young minds are very impressionable. So I think don't limit yourself to things you can expose yourself to. And with that being said, that's my encouragement to parents. Parents expose your children to things, whether it's in the community, whether it's sports, whether it's clubs that they can be a part of, chess club or the rock finding club, whatever it may be. Just expose your children to stuff. And a lot of times those experiences will develop things within that individual that will help them to kind of tap into what their passions might be, where their interests might lie. And beyond that, I would say service is very important too. There's no lack of people in this world, and especially in our communities, who are in need of support, and whatever that may look like. That's a variety of things. But if you have that servanthood mentality, and I want to serve, I want to be a good steward of my community, I want to be a good steward of my school, I want to be a good steward of my friend group. And you put that service on the forefront, that'll expose you to a lot of things as well. And again, it just goes back to what service academies or corporations or organizations are looking for people to get in there and lend a hand, looking for people to get in there and leave something better than what they found it. And so those are just good avenues and opportunities to be able to, further expound upon your experiences and ultimately what you may be passionate about.
Oh, I like how you put that, especially that part about leaving something better than you found it. And I'm glad you mentioned the parents, because in so many avenues, parents, we put up those barriers around our kid. We stop them from being able to explore, to venture out, that thing of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. Because as
Exactly.
adults, we find ourselves like, oh, that's not feeling too good, I don't want to go that route. So we hinder our kids from doing the same thing. So I'm glad you said that. Teach our kids about new opportunities, taking advantage of at a younger age, because like you said, kids are impressionable, of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Because what happens when you get older, now we want to teach the kids, and when they become young adults, you have to get uncomfortable. You have to get uncomfortable doing things you like. No, we should have started working on that at an early age. And I like how you put that, by that service and being a servant, because I tell people all the time, there's many different types of leaderships and leadership styles. And believe it or not, you are your own first leader. You're the person that makes those decisions in your life. And as you said, being a servant, and for me, a servant leader is like the epitome of leadership. Like a servant leader does everything they can to make other people's life better. And I tell you, it comes back around full circle, because those same people that you're helping out, they find a way to give back and take care of you as well in the long run. And I love it.
Yeah.
Now, you said all that, and that transitions you into the military.
Mm-hmm.
What are those skills that, because you said you're 9 to 5, what are those skill sets and those things that you did in the military? Because we build every day. Mm-hmm. What are those things that help you transition to the next part of your life?
Yeah, so I would say my exposure to sports had a lot to do with it. I've been playing the sport of football since I was 8 years old, and really enjoyed the sport. But in that environment, I would say there are so many things, tangible skills and lessons and abilities that you develop, as well as the intangibles. And not only did I have the opportunity to play football, but I also had the opportunity to coach football for a few years. And it's when I was coaching football that I really began to really recognize it more than I did as a player, that there are life lessons and skills and abilities that we're trying to inspire and train in these young men that are transferable to, yes, on the field, but yes, to the workspace or the office or the home, or in relationships. And so I really began to develop a passion around that part of it, that aspect of it, that development part of it. And I like the word transformation, because really it became a transformative process when I was working with student athletes, and how you can I coach defensive back. So, hey, you got to get your hips like this. You got to backpedal. You got to open up. You got to do X, Y, Z. But then I thought about it, like, what about the transformative lessons that I could teach this person that it may serve them well on the field, but it's going to serve them even better off the field. And so I really began to develop a passion around that process of coaching. And so that's what transitioned to me ultimately becoming a certified professional coach in the industry, is just to be able to support people, support individuals, or support teams, or support groups, to be able to have transformative processes and transformative lessons that they can apply to their lives, in their relationships, and professional settings and personal settings.
Man, I like that transformative piece. I want to stick with that for a second, because you found something. You played sports, but it wasn't until you started coaching them, that transformation from becoming the player to the coach, that you actually found that niche, that thing that made you want to help others. I want to stick with that for a second.
Yeah.
Can you? Because I don't want you. You don't have to necessarily give up all your secrets, but we be transparent over here. What would you say to somebody that's wondering when or how do I get that transformation piece in my life that helps me transform from where I am now to becoming the person I want to be?
Yeah, definitely. And I can't help but repeat a theme that's already come up in our conversation, is that exposure. So prior to me becoming a professional coach, I really didn't even know what it was, didn't even know it existed, didn't know the industry existed. And I was in the process, I was in the military, I was in a civilian capacity, I was thinking about, hey, maybe I'm going to like leave from under the Air Force umbrella and get out in the corporate world or just do something differently. And through that, I actually ended up talking with a woman who was based out of Detroit. And she was explaining to me what she does. And she said, yeah, I'm a leadership coach for my organization. And I said, leadership coach, what is that? I've never heard of that job title before. And she began to talk about what leadership coaching is, what professional coaching is, the International Coaching Federation, which is a governing body over the industry, and how she got certified and what she does in her practice. And it's just like a light bulb went off in my head. And I thought to myself, I've been coaching these athletes, I've been coaching these student athletes about football, but you're telling me I could coach people about life, and I could coach people about how to develop their potential, how to develop in their personal and professional lives. And I was like, sign me up for that. And so in the grand scheme of things, I learned more about the International Coaching Federation and certification programs. And I ended up pursuing the certification program and got certified. And so, but I say all that to say exposure. Had I not spoken with this individual about her profession and got that exposure to something that I had not previously been exposed to, I may have never known, what the possibilities were.
I don't want anybody to miss what you just said, because we say it all the time on this show. You show me your network, I'll show you your net worth. Yeah, and that exposure that Christian is talking about, it goes hand in hand, because that transformation and exposure, believe it or not, they go together. Because in order to even get to the exposure, you have to transform your thinking to know that, hey, there's somebody out there that knows or is doing something that I want to learn to do, or somebody out there that is in a position or say a different career, and I want to aspire to be like them. And I want you to take that other piece, because Christian said it himself. He was like, what's this? You can actually do that. Yeah. I don't want anybody to miss what he's saying. Whatever you love to do in life, no matter what it is, somebody out there wants your services. Think about that person that was the first chef. They knew how to cook.
Yeah.
Everybody back in the day just cooked at home.
Yeah.
But they said, man, I think I'm really good at this. And somebody was like, you should probably offer your food to somebody else. Mm-hmm. That person started the chef industry. It's the same with coaching. Somebody was like, you're smart. You got a lot of advice. Can you share it with others? Mm-hmm. That's how things happen. Don't want people to miss that, because so many people are trying to figure out in life, what can I do? What is my purpose? Mm-hmm. And you just have to look deep down in yourself and say, I love to do this. I want to change lives by doing this. And that's how that works. So now we got to ask that question, because you told us about how you got certified. So let's take a step back with that right quick, because somebody out there, because we see right now in the world today, it seems like every time you look up, there's new coaches all over. The coaching industry is booming. Everybody swears they're a coach. And I'm not saying that there aren't, but we know that everybody's not a coach. You're just looking for the monetary value. Yeah. But somebody that's out there listening now that has that knowledge, has that information that they can help others with, how do they become a coach?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, because I will say I did allude to the International Coaching Federation, but technically there is nothing out there that says, if Joe off the street right now wanted to walk into someone's house and say, hey, I'm a coach, and start coaching that individual, there's nothing stopping Joe from doing that. Joe can do that, and if he wants to refer to himself as a coach, he can. But I think one thing that is happening in the industry is that people are recognizing and understanding the value that coaching brings to individuals and organizations. And for that reason, people are almost vetting coaches now, because there is a surplus of coaches, and it seems like the industry is saturated with so many coaches. A lot of organizations, as well as people who, want to make sure that they're aligning themselves with someone who is, professional and competent. They are looking for those credentials. And so with that being said, the International Coaching Federation really puts a lot of that information out there about credentialing, certification programs that are approved by the ICF, and so on and so forth. So for someone who desires to be a coach, my encouragement will be, don't just come off the street and be a coach, but actually go through the training and go through the steps and go through the process of really becoming certified, because it's going to equip you with the skills and the abilities that you can deploy when you're supporting your clients. And I'll also say that it's important when you're thinking about a coach, what coaching is and what coaching isn't. And that's something that I always bring to the table when I start working with a new client. I explain to that client who I am as a coach and what coaching is, but also who I am not as a coach and what coaching is not. And with that being said, coaching isn't advice giving, or coaching isn't even, I would say, consulting, where it's never my intent to advise you and to tell you, hey, Billy, you need to do this in order to have this success. That's not my approach as a coach, and that's not what I was trained to do as a coach. But it's more so empowering the individual and helping the individual to realize that the answers that he or she is looking for is already inside of them. And just through curiosity and discovery, me as a coach is supporting that individual to tease those ideas out.
Oh, I like how you put that, because because you said, like you said, about empowering somebody. Like, you're not like just telling them do this, this, and this. You're not a therapist. Let's put it like that. You're a coach. And I want people to take it, because coaching is the same no matter what it is. You're helping somebody get to a desired goal. Mm-hmm. It's no different in sports. Somebody's a sports coach. They want to win what? The championship. And you're trying to help the team get there. And you're helping in position, changing that mindset, empowering them to believe in themselves that they can get to that next level. But I want you to think about what Christian said earlier. We were talking about serving. In order to be that type of person as a coach, you have to be willing to be servant, because you're there to help that person reach the goal, with the success, whatever it is they're trying to obtain. That's what you're doing as a coach. Now, you hinted at something right there. You said, when I come to the table and I'm talking to a client, I tell them what a coach is and what a coach isn't. Mm-hmm. What's that piece of advice that you have for somebody that might, because you said it, Joe comes off the street, says they're a coach. You might even have people that got certifications. Mm-hmm. How would you help a coach that's trying to gain clients? Like, what would be that first thing or two things or whatever to help that person, that coach, obtain clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something that I'm working on to this day, to try and always write the business development, the funnels, and all the, the business oriented conversations you could have. But my encouragement, because it's the process I'm going through now, is one of the things you want to make sure you do is get very clear on your services and get very clear on what your niche is, because there are so many coaches out there. And if someone is to Google right now, I need a coach, or I'm looking for a coach, what steps do I take? The person on the other end, that the advice they might get is be clear on what you're going for. Like, what are you striving for? What do you want to improve upon with a coach? So it works the same way on the other side of the table. As coaches, we should be very clear on the services we provide. What are we supporting our potential clients with? What are we helping our potential clients with? What problems are we helping them to solve? And if you can get very clear on the problems that, first of all, you have to identify that there is a problem, and that maybe there may be a group of people or many people that deal with this problem and this issue, and then that you have the solution, or you have solutions to address that problem or that challenge or that issue. You can get very clear on that messaging. And then when you're presenting yourself as a coach, whether it's social media, or if you have blog posts, or if you have articles, or whatever you do to put your stuff out there, you can say, hey, this is a problem. This is my solution to the problem. Is this a service that sounds of interest to you? And that could really help to start to funnel people in to say, hey, that's a guy, that's a gal that I want to work with, because I think they're clear on something that I need support with.
I love how you phrase that, because everybody, that applies to every single thing. When you think about your purpose, what you're trying to do in life, that's how the method applies, no matter what field you choose. People have a problem, you have the solution. Yeah. And believe it or not, yes, there are a lot of people out there that might have similar or the same solutions. It's no different than you walking down the bread aisle. There's a bunch of different types of bread.
Yeah.
But each different brand has one different ingredient that makes them who they are. There's a problem. People need you to have the solution. And even though it's a lot of people in your field that might have a similar solution, it's something that you do, something that you have within inside of you that makes your solution fit a certain clientele. Mm-hmm. So like Christian said, you put it all out there. This is what I do. Because you heard him say it. It's a niche. Yeah, you hear people just say, I'm a life coach. Yeah. What part of life?
Exactly.
You gonna help me with my finances, or you gonna help me with my spirituality? Like, there's different parts to it. So make sure when you're looking for a coach, like Christian said, you find that niche. Now I have to ask, because we talked about growing up, getting you through the academy, military, and we talked about coaching. Mm-hmm. How did that work? Because you said earlier you have the 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. How does that work hand in hand, coaching with and the 9 to 5 at the same time?
Yeah, It definitely prioritization matters. And I'm grateful for the employer that I have. I'm grateful that my employer entrusts me to, bring business to the organization and be successful in my role and so on and so forth. So I will say that priorities are important, and how you prioritize, your family. I know people say work-life balance, and I know some people say there's no such thing as balance, and so there's all those trains of thought out there. But priority does matter. And so for me, that's what it looks like is um, until I get to a point where I can say, hey, I'm at a place and I'm going to take that leap of faith and I want to coach full time. Until I get there, I have to be very respectful and accountable to my employer with my 9 to 5. And that means that I'm making sure I'm meeting or exceeding expectations and meeting and exceeding objectives, making sure I'm doing my job and making sure I'm fully present for my job. Now, it also means that I have to take responsibility of the time that is outside of that 9 to 5. And so it does mean I have to be productive. If I want to be successful as a coach, and if I ultimately want my coaching business to be successful, then the hours that I'm not contributing to my employer, I'm contributing and making use of that time for my business, for my coaching business. And so, yeah, like what that looks like on lunch hours, I'm either reading an article or scheduling with a client or, doing something that's going to improve upon my coaching business. But then when lunch is over, I'm tapped in. I'm right back into the work that I do for my employer. And then, in the evening time, that's why I say like the 5 to 9, so to speak, the 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Again, that's my time again. So obviously there's priority with family and things, the needs of my spouse, the needs of my children, and so on and so forth. Personal needs that I have outside of work-related activities, but then making sure that I dedicate that time, making sure that I tap into the resources I need to tap into to make sure that I have the support that I need to be successful in all facets of life.
Wow. So now it just made me think because I like how you said the knowledge and you mentioned it earlier about certifications and learning stuff. And then you said then your lunch break, you take an hour, you're reading the article, you're learning something. Because I tell people all the time, I understand that push when our generation was coming through. You need to go to college. You need to go to college. And now you hear people saying, we need a trade. You don't necessarily need college. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you still have to have some type of knowledge in whatever you're going to do. No so doubt. Like you said with coaching, your priority is getting knowledge, but you're doing it in a respectable way. Mm-hmm. When it comes to getting knowledge and focusing on whatever your goals is, how would you explain it to people to say like, hey, the knowledge in your career field or the knowledge in your niche, how would you advise them to go get that knowledge?
Yeah, that's pivotal. I mean, that's paramount to get that knowledge. And I think that's one thing I want to caution people with. And I see it all the time because I think we were talking about it before the show, and you even mentioned it during the show, like coach is here, coach is there, coach. And I see it all the time on social media, top 10 ways to be a more effective coach, top 10 ways to grow your business from, 10x or whatever the case may be. And I think people have good intentions, but at the same time, I don't think there's a shortcut to success, or I don't think there's a shortcut to fulfillment, or a caveat to what you're really trying to achieve and what you're trying to accomplish in life. And I say that to say that knowledge is always out there, but you have to dedicate the time and you have to invest your time into going out and to get that knowledge and to acquire that knowledge. And the good thing about knowledge is, I mean, there's libraries all over the place. There's Google University, YouTube University, right? And so tapping into the right sources, I mean, you can do so much for free, pretty much. You could check out a library book with the library card, right? You could Google something right now, and that's where a lot of my articles come from. I look for scholarly articles on Google. It's increasing my knowledge. And so I would say when you are going to expand your knowledge and expound upon your knowledge, make sure you're doing it in the right way and just kind of just check your heart behind it, because if at the end of the day it's for a dollar, I mean, obviously, money is important, but it gets back to that service component. Like, are you really trying to indeed really desire to provide a service that's going to make a difference in the world, that's going to make a lasting impression in your world or in your community? And if the answer to that is yes, then yeah, get the knowledge to be able to do that.
Man, I couldn't have said that any better, because once again, you said service, but it all comes right back around full circle to priority. Because I'm not going to lie, I'm just as guilty. Sitting there scrolling, TikToking it up, Instagram, when I could be doing something to focus on my niche or my purpose. and I'm just as guilty as this next person, because we're not saying don't have fun, but at some point in time, you have to focus priority, because you just can't snap your fingers and say, okay, I'm done with this. Now I'm finna go be successful because they said on there 10 best ways to be successful overnight and wake up tomorrow with $1 million. Just follow the 10x rule. Like, it doesn't work like that. And you said about that knowledge, and you told us about the different articles and stuff. And I want people to understand something, because we all went through so much of life. Christian has done so much throughout his life. I want to know from everybody else, from you specifically, how did what you did in the military help you with what you're doing now with your coaching?
Yeah, another good question. Really, my biggest takeaway from the military was the people that I worked with. I just got to work with phenomenal people directly. Some people I reported to, or some people reported to me. A lot of it was indirect as well. But there's just like a culture, right? And I think I got to throw out those Air Force core values, but one of those core values being excellence in all we do. And I think that excellence is such a thing to strive for, and not necessarily to try and be perfect, because we can't be perfect, but how can we put our mindsets and our attitudes and our efforts behind being excellent and having excellent output. And so being around those types of individuals and those types of teams for so long, I think it really just solidified something that was already in me and further developed something that was already in me from my upbringing. And in the grand scheme of things, it's just served me well in life. So even beyond my military career, now I can apply that core value to my work life. I can apply that core value to my personal life, to my relationship with my wife and to my relationship with my children. And I'm not here to say I'm excellent in all I do, because there's a lot of improvements I can improve upon for sure. But just being around that ideology and that mentality, it's really just served me well, even from life beyond the military.
So I'm glad you said that, because everybody that's listening, one of the things that, because Christian just told you about one of the core values in Air Force, and one of the other core values is service before self. So you keep hearing Christian say service, service, service. Those core values were instilled in us over the years. Now, I say that for a reason, because yes, we know everybody doesn't go to the military. And during the military, something that was always told to me that I never took into account, they were saying you're going to have good leaders and bad leaders, but make sure you learn from both of them equally. And I was like, what are you talking about? And it dawned on me later on in my career, those bad leaders, they taught me what not to do.
Exactly.
And I say that because somebody out there remembers their upbringing coming up. Because when I said it before, everybody isn't blessed to have like the great family nucleus. Some people come from broken backgrounds, broken homes, and that negativity sticks with them, and we tend to let that carry us through life, and we blame those moments. But I say that because Christian just said it. We have to learn from those situations as well. So you want to learn from those, because now you know what not to do. Exactly. I used to grow up, because we were talking about sports, because I'm from Texas, football state.
Yeah.
And so when you're growing up like that and watching the NFL, because everybody in Texas that plays football, we swear we're all going to the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
You can't tell any football player in Texas that they're wrong. So I will sit there and study what's different between those NFL players and me. And for the longest time, I was like, I don't think I want to go to the NFL, because it seems like the great players had something tragic happen in their life. They lost a parent. Yeah. They lost a sibling. Somebody was on drugs. They were homeless. It seemed like it was something. And I was like, I don't want none of that stuff for my life. Without knowing, I was learning what I didn't want at that young age. And I say that because Christian talks about coaching. You're learning things throughout life, and you have to learn how to use those things, prioritize them for your benefit, because we all come from different backgrounds of life, and we all need to work off the lessons that we have learned. Yeah. I say that because you transition from the military into your 9-to-5. And you said your bosses, you had a good company, worked for a great company. How did that work when you transitioned? How did you find that great company that you say you work for?
Yeah, so it goes back to networking for sure, because one of my favorite social media platforms, really my favorite social media platform, is LinkedIn. And just full transparency, I was intimidated by LinkedIn. I I separated out of the military in 2018. And I remember a few weeks about a couple weeks before my separation date, my older cousin, who's a mentor of mine, he's like, "Hey man, let's get your LinkedIn profile set up." And I was like, I don't know, hesitant, and got the profile set up. But then it just sat there for a while, and it was like, you have 0 connections, try to get to 30 connections, and I was just so intimidated by it. And I was like, man, I feel like I don't have enough education, or I don't have enough like a job experience, or whatever the case may be, and just talking myself out of it. But somewhere along the lines, and really it happened in 2020, because we all of a sudden had some more time on our hands because we were working remotely. Some of us were not working at all anymore. And so during that time, I began to really think about networking, and I began to leverage networking. And again, that led to exposure in a lot of other areas. But that's what led to me being able to find out about the company that I now work for. LinkedIn and websites like Glassdoor, which is a great site for job searchers. And so that's what I did. Not only would I look up potential roles that I would think I would like to work in, and I'll look at the company on Glassdoor, but I would also make connections on LinkedIn. So when there were things I thought I might like to do, but didn't know if I was going to be good at it, I would just search that job title on LinkedIn. Profiles will pop up. I would send an invite, and in my note in the invite, I'll say, "Hey, I'm Christian. I'm interested in these things. I see you have some experience here. Would love to connect sometimes." And I would say 8 to 9 times out of 10, people were for it and like, "Yes, let's connect." Set up a phone call, set up a Zoom call, and we would just connect. And so again, that exposure and that networking led to the opportunity that I now have with my company. But that's just served me so well. Even when I thought about going back to school and pursuing more education, I just go on LinkedIn, or I go on, do a Google search or something. Who's done what I think I would like to do? Talk to that individual, and then it helps to become more real for me, as opposed to just being an idea.
Man, I'm glad you said everything you just said, because not only did you touch in on the networking again, but you elaborated on that getting out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Of course, we know what 2020 was. All of us had a lot more time in certain times, depending on your jobs. Mm-hmm. But you went out there, and not only, because I say it all the time, I want people to go after what they want. Like, what you want isn't just gonna fall in your lap. Yeah, you get those occasional lucky people that the blessing just happen and it fall in their lap. But I promise you, it doesn't happen like that on a daily basis. And Christian just said he had to get out there and go search for these individuals, sending out for connections, trying to build his own network. Your network doesn't build on its own. That success you want, it won't just happen on its own. It requires you to get out there doing work to obtain it. And so you said that, and it got you into this dream job. Now that you transition from the Air Force, you're into this dream job. Can you elaborate? Because you said you're one of those nice jobs. You love the job. Can you elaborate what you actually do in that job?
Yeah. So I want to be clear, because, and I hope I'm not stepping on anyone's toes when I say this, but my passion is more of the 5 to 9 as opposed to the 9 to 5. So my passion truly is coaching. And that's what I desire. And that's what I feel like I will be able to do long term. But as far as with my job with my employer that I sought out, after separating out of the military, I really value culture. And I really value, impact, and I value fulfillment. And so those are things that I saw in this company before I even applied for the role, but that led me to want to apply for the role. And then again, there were connections that I had through my network that I was able to actually talk to some people internal to the company before I even had an interview for the company. So again, that added great value to the insights that I had about the company. But one of my favorite thing about the company I work with is the culture. And what I mean by that is all the networking I did prior to the job, I start to do that networking internal to the company. So I'm reaching out to managers, and I'm reaching out to, general managers, and I'm reaching out to people who are colleagues or people who are associates, but as well as people who are up the ladder, people who are down the ladder, so to speak. And it was just very seamless to connect with pretty much whoever I wanted to connect with. And again, I'm talking about senior HR professionals. I'm talking about vice presidents of regions of the company. And they're just like, grab some time, let's hop on Teams, let's chat it up a little bit. And so that was really eye-opening for me, because I think one thing that I kind of experienced in the military was, the hierarchy of the military, and general officers, and as you go up the ladder, like how approachable people are or whatnot. And I know that's more on a case by case, person by person basis. But I did kind of carry some of that stigma with me. And so when I was in this corporate setting, in this corporate environment, I really didn't know what access I had to people or what access I didn't have to people. But very quickly with this company, I realized that I have access to pretty much whoever I want to have access to, and I can ask them questions and I could bounce ideas off of them and I can glean from their experiences. And that's been the best part about the company, hands down.
You said something right there that I've never actually thought about to say out loud, but we touched on it like when the Air Force has their 3 core values: service before self, excellence in all we do, integrity first. But then you just elaborated and you gave one of your 3, like you want to improve, you want the culture, fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And I've never thought to ask or say it until this moment. For everybody that's watching, what are those main objectives in your life that you want to do to help others?
Right.
Do you want to empower people? Do you want to inspire? Do you want to motivate? Do you want to feed people with the knowledge, or feed them, like we said with the chef, feed them with the food to the soul? That's why they call it soul food.
Yeah.
Think about the things that you want to do that's part of your purpose, because that's how you help define what your purpose is. What are those things that you have that like non-negotiables? Like, I have to do this. This is how I want to help people. It could be loyalty. It can be whatever you can think of. It might be 1, might be 2, 3, 5, 10. What are those things? As you just heard Christian say, that's what led him to that next organization, because he's big on culture. He's big on improving situations in people's lives. He's big on being fulfilled, not just for himself, but helping somebody else feel fulfilled. And I asked that question because you told us about the Air Force. You told us about your current role. How does your current role support, as you say, how does your 9 to 5, your current role of your 9 to 5, how does that add more support to your 5 to 9?
Yeah. I like, one of the things I really value as well is people, right? And working with people. And in my role in the 9 to 5, I have an opportunity to interact with people, whether it's internal to the organization or when we're talking about customers. And with that being said, when I first took on this role, the technical name of the role is account manager. But my manager who hired me, the hiring manager, said, "You are a business results consultant." That's what he said. He said, "You're not an account manager, you're a business results consultant." And so, like, what does that mean? And really, he said, it's your priority to support our clients, to support our stakeholders, and addressing what their challenges are and helping them to come to solutions for what those challenges might be. And so I'm able to take that whole mentality around a business results consultant, but then apply it to what I do as a coach, and partnering with my coaching clients to identify what their problems are, identify what their issues or their challenges are, identify what their gaps are, right? In a gap analysis, this is where I am, this is where I want to be. And then from that, just to have the support to say, hey, these are the problems that you're having. These are some solutions, or this is a solution that we can walk through and that we can journey through together to get to the other end of whatever the challenge or the difficulty is. And then I'll also say, because in my 9 to 5 role, I am in a sales role, an account management position, business development position. So obviously that serves me well, right? Because at the end of the day, as a coach, I'm trying to sell my services and I'm trying to get really clear on the marketing and trying to get really clear on the messaging, what my niche is. And so that's just like a positive consequence of what I'm doing 9 to 5, how it can transition into the 5 to 9.
So you said something that caught my attention right then. And I don't want anybody to miss it, because you said that gap analysis. Mm-hmm. Now, people hear it all the time, gap analysis. Can you give, because I feel like this might help a lot of people, because we understand what analysis is, but can you explain what is that gap analysis?
Yeah. So plainly put, I would say when I use the term gap analysis, I'm thinking, almost like if you think point A to point B. So a person is at point A, and what is it about that point A? What do you like about being at point A? What do you not like about being at point A? Why do you have a desire to leave point A? Do you want to leave point A? And then somewhere beyond that point A is the point B, the next step to get to. And so it's like, okay, point B, what do you know about point B? What do you like about point B? Why do you desire to be at point B? And then you get a very clear understanding of what point A is, what point B is. Now we have to address the gap that exists between the two. And with the gap analysis and the gap between point A and point B is what is it that exists between these 2 points? What are the challenges or the difficulties or the obstacles that I have to overcome? The thought processes, the behavioral patterns, whatever it is that I have to figure out and that I support, the people that I work with to figure out in order to navigate from that one point to the next point. And so that's what I think about in a nutshell when I think about gap analysis.
Man, that was the best definition I could have ever heard or received. And I asked that question for a reason, because when people are trying to, as we said, figure out their niche, figure out their purpose, what it is for them. And we said it, people have a problem, you have a solution. But so many people get lost and get deterred because of the roadblocks or the mind blocks, the things that stop them from pursuing their dreams, their passion, their purpose, because they don't know how to help somebody that has a problem and they don't know how to get their solution across. And Christian just gave you the best example ever. You need to first do that gap analysis on yourself. What is that niche you can do? What is that thing is? Like, you have point A. You are the service. Mm-hmm. What all does your niche and your service entail to help somebody get to the same knowledge that you have? You've studied your craft. You have this information. You know you can help people. You are point B. So somebody at point A that's having a problem, how do you help them get from point A, because you used to be at point A, to where you currently are at point B, because you are the solution to their problem. And remember, all those things in the middle that you did and had to go through, obstacles and hurdles, that's the gap analysis. Mm-hmm. That's what you're selling. That's the product you're trying to give to your clients. So I don't know if everybody's catching this. Christian is basically breaking down how to use your purpose and get fine, because we're sorry, you got to have money to live, but you're also being a servant. You're giving people back a service that they need from you. And he just broke down how to do that, how to get that marketing for yourself. He says social media, get on LinkedIn, start hitting people up. Hey, I can do this. This is my service. He's giving you the tools to how to get your purpose and your passion and your desires, your success of what you want to do out there. By completing that gap analysis on yourself, now you can turn around and have that information to help others reach their goals. Man.
Exactly.
Man, you out here giving out all these life coaching tips. Oh my goodness. Now I do have this other thing, because we talked about it a little bit with the balance. Yeah. Because everybody, I know I'm as big as everybody else was struggling with this maintaining, like you said, work-life balance. Mm-hmm. You got the 9 to 5, the 5 to 9. You spoke a little bit about your family. How do you maintain all that? Because I'm sorry, that family is a priority. At the end of the day, that job, you let you go, something happen, God takes you right now, tomorrow, they'll have somebody else in your spot. Mm-hmm. You're 5 to 9, something happens to you tomorrow, they'll find the next life coach.
Find the next coach, yep.
But your priority with that family, how do you make sure all the stuff that you got going on, what do you do to have that balance, to give that priority, your family, the things that they need?
Yeah. With that being said, it's that's something. This quick disclaimer. I'm trying to figure this out. I haven't figured it out. So you don't have to get your pens ready for me to give you the golden nugget, right? But I will say this, because I think it relates. Very recently, about 2 weeks ago, in a sermon I was listening to, the pastor was talking about balance, and he was talking about how balance is really a delusion, and balance is something that we should actually strive for. And I bring that up to say that it goes back to priority, and it goes back to what my priorities are as a man. As you know, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a cousin, so on and so forth. But prioritization, and I would say identity. And what I mean by that is all that I am and all that I'm able to be, I believe is through the source of my relationship with God. And so it shouldn't be a thing where I'm trying to balance out God and balance out family and balance out. It's like, no, God should be at the center of it all. God should be the point of it all. And if I make sure that that's prioritized the right way, and if I make sure that that's where every other decision I make is based off of that decision and that relationship with God, then I trust that everything else will fall into place, right? And I think about, Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And so Jesus tells us, if you seek first my kingdom and my righteousness, all these other things will fall into place just like they're supposed to. And so for me, what I'm learning, what I recently learned, and what I'm applying to life, and the lens I'm applying to life is not to necessarily strive for balance, but more so what needs to be at the center of my life, make sure that that's at the center of my life. And then the layers and the rings beyond that center will be where they need to be and be aligned the way they need to be aligned in my relationship with my wife, in my relationship with my children, in my relationship with my coworkers, with my superiors, in my relationship with my clients that I work with. It's just like, it's just expanding, and it's like rings around that center ring. But as long as that center ring is prioritized and where it's supposed to be, I don't have to worry about balance. It's just more so I'm centered in who I am.
Man, I love that, because the simple fact, as soon as you said that, all that popped in my mind is the scripture: trust in the Lord with all thy might, and he shall direct your path. Mm-hmm. When you like Christian, you said it's so good. When you got that center point, everything seems to fall into place. Mm-hmm. It's point A. We're going back to gap analysis. Point A, you're doing things by yourself. Point B is where you're trying to get you and your family, and you don't actually know how to get there. So somebody has to guide you. You got mentors and all that, but when you come back to that center, he's gonna shine the light and direct the path. But God has to be a part of that. Yep. He's your gap analysis.
There you go.
And man, it's only one way to go with that, because that's Now I have to question. I have to ask.
Yeah.
Because we talked about your journey, upbringing, Air Force, the amazing career opportunity that you have, and everything that you went through to get there, to now having your own coaching business, getting that going. If there's somebody out there, no matter what the age, young, old, mm-hmm. they're getting started. Mm-hmm. Because remember, you've done that gap analysis on yourself. You're not where you begin. You might not be where you're ending it, but you're still moving forward. Yeah. Somebody is at their point A. How do you give that motivation, that inspiration, that empowerment mm-hmm. to help? Or we started it out with that transformation thinking to get them started to working on getting to point B.
Yeah, that's great. One thing that came to mind, because we were just talking about it, about, being balanced versus being centered. My initial encouragement will be, get centered. What are your values? What is your moral compass? What are your convictions? And to get centered around that. And I think in a lot of ways that will help to begin to align and move things and maneuver things in a way that will set that path before you. And then it's about how do you walk out that path. And then the other thing I'll say, and I'll harp on this, and this has been my kick for a while now, but mindset is so important. Hashtag mindset matters. Hashtag mindset is everything. Mindset. What do you think about things? What do you believe about things? What are your behaviors? What are your emotions? What are your feelings? If you can get clear on your mindset, and what I like to call mindset awareness, for the individual who is aware of their mindset, that is going to serve them well. Because if they're aware of their mindset, and this, let's say it's a negative mindset, maybe they're pessimistic, right? If you could do something about that, maybe you work with a coach to get from pessimistic to optimistic, and that's your point A to point B. If you could get clear on what your mindset is, and then are you okay with your mindset? Is it serving you well? Are you not okay with it? And what do you need to do about it? Once you have a clear mindset, I believe that's the master key that'll unlock any door that you desire to walk through, is getting centered and then having that mindset, right? Developing that mindset and then allowing it to carry you to where you want to go.
Oh, I love how you put that. And I gotta say it, because I have a good friend of mine, more like brother. He's big. He refers to it as mental real estate.
Oh, wow.
And I don't want you to think about it like you got rental property, you got any type of property, real estate property, and you see those houses. We see it all the time where the house looks run down, and somebody comes in there and they clean it out, fix it up, make this house look great, and all of a sudden it's on the market and it's selling for thousands on top of thousands over. And you're like, but that house was a dump.
Yeah.
Now that same thing applies to your mental real estate over the years. Remember, we talked about it. The traumas you might have experienced when you were growing up, time in the military, those bad leaders, that all that stuff becomes trash in your head. And when you have to clear that mental, you have to eliminate. You got to clean it out, get rid of it. Think about the things that you're seeing. Think about the things that you're hearing. Like, that's how you get your life back in balance and get centered, because you have to clear that stuff out of your mind. And I got to give this one more analogy, because it's like a baby. When you see, if you ever watch the baby, and that baby that can walk, and all of a sudden they're stumbling around, and it's like, what is going on? Why is the baby falling down? And you take them to the doctor and find out they have an ear infection.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know this, but when your hearing's not right, it throws your life out of balance. So you have to think about the things that you put in your head, whether you're hearing, you're seeing it, clear that mental real estate, like Christian said, because mindset matters.
Yeah.
I love that. Now I have to ask this question because we have some people watching. I don't want nobody to miss it. If somebody needed to get in touch with you, Christian, how would they go about doing it?
Yeah, there are a few ways. So I would say I'm decently active on LinkedIn. You know, I try to stay active on LinkedIn. So Christian Spears. I'm based out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. So if you were to type in my name and the location, my profile should pop up. If you wanted to learn more about me on my website, as well as the services I provide, you could check out www.attitudeandeffortcoaching.com. And that's where the website is. And then I have social medias as well. So Attitude and Effort Coaching. If you were to look that up on Instagram or LinkedIn or on Facebook, you would see that there. And so those are the primary ways. If you do want to send me an email, you could just send me an email at Christian@attitudeandeffortcoaching.com. So those are the primary ways in which you could get in contact with me if you would like to.
Man, now I know people are going to be reaching out to you, but I have this one last question. I do it to everybody. So, what's that piece of advice? It doesn't matter what it is, personal, professional development, however you want to phrase it. What's that one piece of advice that you would give somebody right now today that's going to empower them to go chase down their dreams?
I would say I can't harp on it enough. And we could spend a whole nother episode talking about mindset because I think that's how important it is. But my encouragement will be get clear on your mindset, increase your mindset awareness. So what I mean by that is, how do you think about things, right? How do you experience things? How do you interpret things? What's your perspective? What's your outlook on life, internally and externally? And I think by you getting clear on that, that's really going to start to depict a picture of why you think the way you think, why you do the things you do, why you are the way that you are. And once you have clarity on that, if you're in a good spot, take note of that. But if you're in a spot where you don't like to be and you're trying to get to another spot from that point A to that point B, I would encourage you to do the work to really reassess that mindset and work on that mindset and tease out what that looks like to further develop it so that it can serve you well. Because I think we all need to be aware of our mindsets. And I think we should all have mindsets that serve us well. And many of us, and I'm guilty of it too, I have a mindset that my mindset doesn't always serve me well. Sometimes I have negative thoughts, or sometimes I have procrastinating thoughts, whatever the case may be. But if we can get clear on what our mindsets are, and the analysis of the mindset and how it can serve us well and what we can do about it to further develop it, again, I think that's the master key that will unlock any door of any opportunity that you could go for in life.
Man, I'm not touching that one that you just dropped. That, man, you can get anywhere you want to go in life when you change your mindset.
Amen.
Man, I'm not touching that one. I'm not touching that one.
That's it.
But I do want to tell you, for one, all the knowledge and information that you dropped on us today, on behalf of everybody, I have to say thank you because it was amazing and we appreciate it, man. That was amazing. We really do appreciate you. And we want to give you your flowers while you're still here because that was some stuff we all needed. We appreciate you.
Yeah. No, and please, if I may, I just want to extend that right back to you and give you your flowers too, because this platform that you provide and that you offer and that you give people access to, I mean, this is changing lives. This is that service, that servanthood that we're talking about. You providing this service through this media, through this platform, through this content. And so again, thank you for being the man that you are, that provided me this space and that you provide others this space for the masses to be able to listen in and be encouraged and to be motivated.
Man, I appreciate that, man. I really do. Now, I don't want you to go nowhere. Because I want to talk to you real quick after the show. So don't go nowhere. I want you to stay with us. But again, thank you, Christian, for everything. Look forward to talking to you soon because we're gonna have to get you back on the show because we got to talk about mindset some more.
Yeah.
But until then, brother, I appreciate it all, and I'll see you on the other side.
All right, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much, Billy.
Man, we talk about mindset. You can't do nothing without that mindset. And you've heard it from Christian. We talked about the gap of analysis. And in order for you to get from point A to point B, whatever that is in your life, it starts by first changing that mindset. And with the understanding that you have to have some type of servitude. So you have to give back to others. Like, it all starts here in the mindset. You have to be able to do that, because that's the only way you're going to be able to live in that purpose. That's the only way you're going to be able to access your dreams. That's the only way you're going to obtain that success that you're looking for, no matter what it is. You first have to change your mindset. And one of the things I love that Christian said, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take your work. It's going to take your dedication, your hard work, your dedication, and your commitment. Because believe it or not, that commitment, that's the foundation to your success. Now, I thank everybody for tuning in. I love y'all. I'm going to miss y'all. I got to wait a whole nother week. But again, I thank y'all for tuning in. Same time next week, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And I want you to continue, as always, to live in your purpose, with purpose, on purpose. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all next week.
I'm back.
Every time I walk out that door, every time I interact with anybody new, my purpose is to help change.
It's time to celebrate life. If you know that you're in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know you want better for your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you have what it takes to be in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you are not just trying to be good for you, but for those around you, it's time to stand up. As a matter of fact, look to the person to your left and tell them you are enough.
I want to help you change, and just like you change, every time I interact with somebody, they help me change. It's no different than if I met an individual and they had 4 quarters and they needed change, or if I had $1 and they had 4 quarters, I need to change. We can swap the money. The value is still the same. They still got $1, I still got $1, but we both exchanged something, and it was a change for both of us. So every time I walk out that door, I inspire to help change lives just as much as lives have changed me.
Y'all been listening to the wrong people, watching the wrong things all your life, and it's time to put to rest all those negative thoughts, because you are enough. It's time to put to rest that self-doubt, because you are enough. It is time to get rid of that negative energy, because you are enough. It is time to stop listening to people that don't have the best interests of you in your life, because you are enough. So let's have a moment of silence. I want everybody to understand that you are the person that's in charge of your life. Everything that you have inside of you to be who you're supposed to be in life. You have a destiny, and that destiny can only be accomplished through you, by you, and only you, with the help of God. When you realize that you are the person you are, because you're not a carbon copy, there's only one you. They try to put you in a box. Society tries to put you in a box, but you can't be in a box. How can you be in a box when there's only one you? But then they tell you, think outside the box. What I'm trying to get you to understand is there is no box.
I want to pass on the things that I have to the generations behind me. By the time it's time for me to get called home and go to the grave, I want to be empty. I believe in bankrupting the cemetery, so I can't take this knowledge with me, because the cemetery is already full of brilliant ideas and unwritten books and innovative ideas. I can't take this with me, so I'm trying to leave it all here as Billy Graham Jr. to the next generation so somebody else can carry it on.